those two eras together, um, no fault of their own. That's just how the brain works. They're putting civil war and civil rights. It would make a whole lot of sense. So now let's shift a little bit to behind the scenes of the civil rights movement, and let's talk about people like Ella Baker. Now, Claudette Colvin just wanted to go back to the time that this happened. Claudette Colvin, of course, was 15 in 1955, and when she stood up to those bus drivers in Montgomery, Alabama. Now, Ella Baker was a monumental figure in the civil rights movement, um, whose work with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and beyond left an indelible mark on history. Now, Ella Baker was born in 1903 in Norfolk, Virginia, and grew up in North Carolina. Influenced by her grandmother's stories of slave life, she developed a deep passion for social justice. After graduating as valedictorian from Shaw University in 1927, Baker moved to New York City, immersing herself in social activism. So she graduated valedictorian from Shaw University in 1927. And let's not forget that Claudette Colvin was 15 on that bus in 1955. So Ella Baker was not there yet. Now, in 1940, Baker's journey with the NAACP began. So that was about 15 years before Claudette Colvin was on that bus in Montgomery, which Claudette Colvin would have been a baby, or she would have, not even been born yet. So this is 15 years before when Ella Baker started her career with the NAACP. She served as a field secretary and later as director of branches. Her travels across the South were pivotal in organizing local branches, recruiting members, and training activists. Baker's grassroots approach emphasized local leadership and direct action, empowering communities to fight for their rights. Now, Baker's role took a turn in 1957 when she joined the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, also known as SCLC, led by Martin Luther King Jr. And this SCLC, she also was a part of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which was formed in 1960. I just have a feeling that this was some teachers who came up with these names, because they just shortened them up. You had the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC. That sounds like a teacher acronym. And then you had SNCC, SNCC. It's short for SNCC. So, as executive director of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, she worked closely with King, but often advocated for a more collective leadership approach differing from the SCLC's hierarchical structure. Now, the year 1960 marked a significant chapter in Baker's life with the formation of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Orchestrating a meeting at Shaw University, she encouraged students to form their own organization. Baker's philosophy of participatory democracy shaped SNCC, emphasizing a democratic grassroots approach over charismatic leadership. The philosophy led to impactful campaigns like the Freedom Rides and voter registration drives in the Deep South. Now, of course, we know charismatic leadership, that's one leader, that's everybody getting behind this one person. And she really advocated for more collective leadership. And she wanted collective leadership from all different ages, letting everyone have a voice in participating in fighting for their rights or even deciding what rights it is that they should be afforded. Um, Baker's influence bridged the gap between older and younger generations in the civil rights movement, fostering a more inclusive and diverse approach. Her emphasis on grassroots organizing and local leadership development had a profound impact, shaping the movement's direction. Now, I'm thinking about how you had a lot of young activists that were a part of SNCC, also a part of SCLC, student, I mean, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. You also had a spillover of all of both of those movements that led to the Black Power movement in the early 60s. And so you had people who were heavily involved in movements like SNCC and SCLC be leaders in the other or later revolutionary movements like the Black Power movement. Stokely Carmichael is one that comes to mind. He was someone that had differing opinions and approaches to nonviolent protests. Um, he didn't necessarily advocate for nonviolent protests. He felt like, if they hit, we should hit back. But also, I think about Stokely Carmichael as being someone who was influential in changing the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's approach or his views on nonviolent movements. And we also know his philosophy around nonviolent action to stand up against oppression was something that was also influenced by Bayard Rustin, who was inspired by Gandhi. And so and all these people, they kind of, at some point, all their stories all kind of meld together because it led to some real significant revolutionary change. But if you think about how all of those different ideas and thought processes and different approaches to getting to the same place, how they all kind of came together to lead us to a movement like a Black Power movement. All of those movements and philosophies were necessary for us to get to the point of something like a Black Power movement. So anytime. So it's something that we shouldn't overlook, how all of those people spilled over from one movement to the next, but also bringing something useful to the era that they fought for change for. And Ella Baker's emphasis on grassroots organizing and local leadership development had a profound impact, and it shaped the movement's directions. Her legacy continues to resonate in social justice movements worldwide. Her belief in the power of ordinary people to instigate change remains a guiding principle. After the 1960s, she remained active in various social justice causes until her death in 1986. Well, she passed away in 1986. I was only a year old at the time, influencing not just civil rights but also feminist and labor movements. Ella Baker's life reminds us that beyond every movement, there are unsung heroes whose strategies and philosophies lay the groundwork for change. Her story is a testament to the power of collective action and grassroots organizing. Thank you for joining us and honoring the legacy of Ella Baker, a true heartbeat of the civil rights movement. Ella's work reminds us that the movements aren't just frontline protests, they're also strategic planning and community empowerment. Every local story has the potential to impact the nation. Let's travel to Houston, Texas to uncover a local civil rights event that shaped national conversations. And of course, I'm in Houston, Texas, and a story we're going to talk about today is my alma mater. I graduated from Texas Southern University. And this is something that I learned about not too long ago, about a few months back in researching for this. So, this is about the 1967 TSU riot. It was a significant event in the history of civil rights and racial tensions in the United States, particularly here in Houston, Texas. Now, me growing up in Houston, Texas, why wouldn't I know this? And why wouldn't I be teaching this? I teach eighth grade U.S. history, and this is a story about U.S. history. It's also a local story. Yet, you can pick up any book, any textbook in a eighth grade middle school Texas history class, Houston, Texas history class, because we do cover Houston in those in eighth grade. I promise you, there is no mention of the TSU riot, and I think that is something that I will now be including in my history lessons around this era. But I think all people should, because I think this would also let the youth know that their actions can leave a lasting change on society and for change wherever they are. And there is some sense of pride when knowing that something that is in history happened where you're located. We never really think about stuff that can happen where we are and how it can change an entire nation. And this was something that did have a significant change in the local area. The incident took place on the campus of Texas Southern University, TSU, a historically black college, and involved a confrontation between students and the Houston police. Now, I have family and friends who actually work for the Houston Police Department right now, and I'm almost certain they have no idea of this incident. The backdrop to the riot included ongoing racial resentments and issues of environmental racism. Had no idea of this. On May 8th, 1967, the death of 11-year-old Victor George, who drowned in a garbage-filled pond at Houston's Holmes Road dump. Now, I know exactly where